Hello, my name's Nicola Millard and I am BT's Customer Experience Futurologist, which obviously means I do have a crystal ball. It doesn't work though. Actually, my work is very much around researching customers, researching employees and figuring out how we're changing and what the impact of those changes are on organisations. Well, I think the one thing that we have as customers that we've never had before, really, firstly, a lot of choice and a lot of information about those choices as well. And I always say there's one very critical piece of software that has not been updated recently. It's my brain. Now, my poor brain is trying to contend with a lot of choice, a lot of information, maybe a tiny bit of risk as well. So the flip side of that is we seek advice, but we don't seek advice in traditional ways anymore. We Google. And I always say that usually you get a mixture of official and unofficial content. And I think the challenge is firstly making the official content stand out. And also the unofficial content, there's a lot of social stuff there that you cannot control, but it's there and it's loud, so you do have to pay attention to it. So I think that we've got an interesting customer that's often cutting organisations out of the conversation until almost the final stage at the point that they want to buy something. Well, partially the internet is changing a lot of things. I think one of the scariest bits of research that we've done is on the smartphone customer, because smartphone customers are acting in very different ways to everyone else. So this is one thing, we're turning into a monster. So we're in we have the internet in the palm of our hands, we're in physical space, we're using the web in a physical space, we're challenging frontline employees saying that's not what's on your website, we're using the website, we're using multiple channels. So actually we can't be inconsistent between those channels because 65% of us are just jumping around different channels. So there's a lot of real challenges, I think, from strategy as to how on earth do you cope with that real multi-channel, omnichannel customer who is autonomous, who is often consuming lots of data from multiple sources. Millennials are very interesting, and actually millennials are behaving very similarly around the world. A lot of our research, the autonomous customer we call it, is global. And I think one of the interesting trends that we're finding is that we get the same answers from the younger customers wherever they happen to be. But I think the one thing you don't do with millennials is engage them on email for a start, because that's so last year. They're very much engaged with social, they're very much engaged with things like instant messaging. However, if they have a problem, they do still lift the phone up and they do value face-to-face. So the old channels are not necessarily dying. But I think in terms of engaging millennials, the first thing you don't do is send them an email. I think loyalty is a really interesting kind of gathering of people with, there's a very strong marketing slant, but I've noticed over the years we're getting customer service, we're getting CRM. So I think it's an interesting way of getting a mixture of people together to talk about all aspects of customer. And I always say it's not just about loyalty necessarily. So that's what it makes it, I think, interesting.